Hello everybody, it's Nancy News here, and today we've gotten a lot of breaking dates today, and the first news we'll be talking about today is coming from Russia. So in the previous video we talked about how the US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff will be travelling to Russia. It has now been confirmed. So we've got news that the US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff is allegedly scheduled to meet with the Russian President Vladimir Putin on Friday, the 25th of April in Moscow. So allegedly, Steve Witkoff will be meeting the President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, this Friday, the 25th of April, and I'll keep you updated on that. Furthermore, we've also got news today that CNN has just revealed the portrait of Vladimir Putin gifted to Trump, created by the Russian artist Nicholas Saronov. So in March, the US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff said that the Russian President Vladimir Putin had given the President Donald Trump a beautiful portrait of the American leader by a prominent Russian artist, which was delivered to Donald Trump. The Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov confirmed it was a personal gift, offering no further details. So, in the last trip of Steve Witkoff's visit to, I believe, St. Petersburg, where he met Russian President Vladimir Putin actually gave this exact personal painting here in your bottom left corner to Donald Trump, as a personal gift. So, interesting news. The next news we've got today is coming from Ukraine. So probably one of the biggest news today is that Trump's final offer for Ukraine-Russian peace has been released. So apparently this is the final US peace offering that the United States will be offering both Russia and Ukraine. I'll just quickly go over the points of it, of what Russia gets under the Trump's plan and then what Ukraine gets. So under the Donald Trump peace plan, Russia will get the recognition of Crimea as Russian territory, also recognition over parts of Donetsk, Luhansk, and Kherson and Zaporozhian regions, which are just these regions of Ukraine that Russia has managed to capture in its 2022 operation into Ukraine. Also, Donald Trump will be pledging that Ukraine won't join NATO. Sanctions imposed on Russia since 2014, Russia's occupation of Crimea, will be lifted, and US and Russia cooperation in the energy and industry sector. So that is what Russia is going to be getting in this big Trump final peace offering to Russia and Ukraine. Now let's look over what Ukraine will get. So Ukraine will get security guarantees from a coalition of countries, including the United States and many European ones. Russian troops will withdraw from the Kharkiv region, this exact region here, the city of Kharkiv. There will be free navigation along the Dnipro River, reconstruction and aid to Ukraine. Zaporozhian nuclear power plant will remain by law Ukrainian, but managed by the United States Energy and shared with Ukraine and Russia. So apparently, under law, the Zaporozhian nuclear power plant, this one, which has been a big conversation on this peace plan, will be by law under Ukraine, but will be managed by the United States and Russia, and the United States and Russia will split the energy output of the nuclear power plant between the two regions of obviously Ukraine and the Russian part of Ukraine. So very big news. The US Vice President J.D. Vance stated that we will withdraw from mediating between Russia and Ukraine if we do not receive a positive response to the peace plan that I've just announced to you. We have presented a clear and fair proposal to both sides of the Russians and the Ukrainians. According to Ukrainian MPs, though, Trump's peace plan is very unfair and obviously pro-Russian. Bild, the news agency, recorded and cited Ukrainian MP officials. Macron, the president of France's office, issued an ultimatum to the US that territorial integrity of Ukraine is non-negotiable. The EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas warns that the United States recognizing Crimea as Russian would be a huge mistake. She stated then Russia will get exactly what it wants, she told AFP. She also added that Crimea is Ukraine and the EU will never recognize it as Russian. And obviously there's been a there's been a bunch of backlash to Donald Trump's proposal peace plan to Ukraine and Russia. America is saying that it's very fair. Many Ukrainian MPs are saying it's very pro-Russian, same as European officials and European presidents around in Europe. It seems that Trump is now very frustrated about this. If you can see this comment here in your bottom left corner, Donald Trump released a statement on his social media platform of Truth Social. He stated that the Ukrainian president Volodymyr Zelensky is boasting on the front page of the Wall Street Journal that Ukraine will not legally recognize the occupation of Crimea. There's nothing to talk about here. This statement is very harmful to the peace negotiations with Russia in that Crimea was lost years ago under the auspices of President Barack Obama, and is not even a point of discussion. Nobody is asking Zelensky to recognize Crimea as Russian territory. But if he wants Crimea, why didn't he fight back for it 11 years ago, when it was handed over to Russia without a shot being fired? The area also houses, for many years before the Obama handover, a major Russian submarine base. It's inflammatory statements like Zelensky's that makes it so difficult to settle this war. He has nothing to boast about. The situation for Ukraine is dire. He can have peace, or he can fight for another 3 years before losing the whole country. I have nothing to do with Russia, but have much to do with wanting to save, on average, 5,000 Russian and Ukrainian soldiers a week, who are dying for no reason whatsoever. The statement made by Zelensky today will do nothing but prolong the killing field, and nobody wants that. We are very close to a deal, but the man with no cards to play should now finally get it done. I look forward to being able to help Ukraine and Russia get out of this complete and total mess that would have never started if I was president. So if you can clearly hear there and read his comments on Truth Social, he's clearly very frustrated at Zelensky. And today we've also got news today that a meeting between the foreign and defense ministers of Ukraine and the United Kingdom has begun. So according to the head of the office of the president of Ukraine, he reported on the results of the meeting with the national security advisors of Great Britain, France and Germany. So according to Yermak, the Ukrainian official, the parties continued their dialogue on achieving a just peace in Ukraine. Yermak, the Ukrainian official, emphasized that Ukraine supports peace initiatives, but Russia refuses to accept a ceasefire. According to the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, Ukraine must decide its own future. We will never abandon it. The Finnish President Alexander Stubb stated that Finland cannot agree to the forced transfer of territory by Ukraine or the restriction of its sovereignty. The office of the French President Macron noted that Europe will demand respect for the territorial integrity of Ukraine in any means of agreement. So, very interesting news. So obviously a lot of people are not really happy with Donald Trump's peace proposal, and we'll just have to keep on looking into it. And furthermore, the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, he stated that he wants a ceasefire before any negotiations with Russia. So Zelensky reported that Ukraine won't negotiate with the Russian Federation until there's a complete ceasefire on the ground, and then Ukraine will negotiate with the Russian Federation. We've also got news today that Ukraine summons Chinese ambassador Man Shenkun. So Ukraine presented evidence to the Chinese ambassador of Chinese nationals fighting in the ranks of the Russian army. The Ukrainian Ministry of Foreign Affairs also shared information and evidence on Chinese companies involved in Russian military production, calling it deeply concerning and a breach of bilateral trust. Ukraine has urged China to cease any support for Russia's war efforts and warned of potential harm to bilateral relations between Ukraine and China. So Ukraine has just summoned the Chinese ambassador to Ukraine, and apparently the Ukrainians have shared evidence that Chinese militants are fighting with the Russians, and apparently that Chinese businesses and corporations are working with the Russian defense arms to produce artillery shells and gunpowder. So, of course, the Chinese side has obviously denied any involvement in the war in Ukraine, especially on the side of the Russians. And furthermore, we've also got some news today that the US conservative commentator Ben Shapiro interviews Zelensky in Kyiv, the capital city of Ukraine. So the American conservative commentator and blogger Ben Shapiro has conducted an interview with President Volodymyr Zelensky in Kyiv. So if you can see here in the bottom left corner, we've got bits of clips of Ben Shapiro's interview with Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine. The full interview hasn't been released as right now, but probably will be released at the time this video goes up. So, according to Ben Shapiro, the first clips and the first parts of the interview will be released tomorrow. So, Ben Shapiro has conducted an interview with Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, and we'll be going over the key points of that interview tomorrow. The next news we've got today is coming from Germany. So we've got news that the AfD right-wing party in the German political sphere is now the most popular party in Germany for the first time with a record of 26%. So we talked a little bit about this a couple months ago, that the AfD party was now the most popular party in Germany. Now we've gotten some more news that confirms this political landscape. So the AfD party is now officially confirmed the most popular party in Germany for the first time with a record of 26%, according to Forsa's survey. And furthermore, the next news we've got today is coming from Denmark. So we've got news that Denmark's King Frederik is set to visit Greenland for the first time in over 10 months, as obviously Donald Trump has suggested that it will become under the United States. So Denmark's King Frederik is set to visit Greenland for the first time in 10 months. We don't have a specific day or time of his visit, but we know it's going to be in the near future. So Denmark's king is going to be visiting Greenland to probably try and rally support behind Denmark from Greenland's population to try and stay with the kingdom, or try and obviously probably not accept Donald Trump's terms of the island becoming into the United States. So interesting news. And furthermore, the next news we've got today is coming from the United Kingdom. So we've got news today that the British Ministry of Defence has just unveiled its new anti-air microwave-based weapon system. So you can see here in the bottom left corner, this is the exact system I'm talking about. So the British Ministry of Defence unveiled this new microwave system that aims to, I guess, melt down aerial targets before they reach their target. And the British Ministry of Defence has announced that it has successfully destroyed a drone swarm during the test with the new microwave-based weapons system aimed at combating drones. So this new microwave system of the British Ministry of Defence is now being tested. It's being run on tests, especially on drones, and it has passed the drone swarm test. So maybe in the near future we can probably see a lot more of these microwave systems, I guess, to combat drone warfare in the future. Who knows, but I'll keep you updated on that specific type of weapon. We've also got news today that the UK is going to be restarting the Challenger 3 MBT project. It is aimed to be a very modern tank in line with the current NATO standards. So however, many are skeptical due to the project being cancelled and reviewed several times. So the Challenger 3 MBT tank project has been cancelled 7 times now, and it's been reviewed 3 times, I believe. So it hasn't been going too well for the Challenger 3 MBT project. So we've got news today that the UK is going to be restarting the Challenger 3 MBT project, and I'll keep you again updated on the Challenger 3 tank. The next news we've got today is coming from the EU. So we've got news today that the EU and China are in final, I quote, final stages of a major deal to lift sanctions. So according to the European Parliament President Metsola, she stated that we will inform group leaders once there is an official confirmation from the Chinese authorities that the EU and China are in final stages of a major deal to lift sanctions. So it seems that the EU, the European Union and China are finally going to be lifting sanctions between the two, organization and country. So very interesting news. And the next news we've got today is coming from the Vatican. So we've got news that Pope Francis's coffin has just been laid down inside of St. Peter's Basilica, where it will lie in state for 3 days. So Pope's body has been transferred to St. Peter's Basilica, which is this exact building here in the hallway here, where many leaders across the world will be attending for the Pope Francis's funeral. So, as we were talking about this yesterday, Trump will be flying to the Vatican for the Pope's funeral on Friday. So Trump has now been confirmed that he will be flying to the Vatican / Rome on Friday. He will also be visiting 3 countries in the Middle East, from May the 13th to May the 16th. We'll get into that a bit later. So we've got news that Zelensky says that he will be ready to meet Donald Trump during his visit to the Vatican. So Zelensky intends to meet Donald Trump in the Vatican to maybe brush some things off, maybe, who knows. But that's all the news I've gotten from the Vatican today. And the next news we want today is coming from Turkey, and more specifically coming from Istanbul. So we've got news that a huge and whopping 6.2 magnitude earthquake has struck Istanbul. So a powerful 6.2 magnitude earthquake has struck Istanbul and the surrounding Marmara region. So currently there has been no serious damage or casualties that have been reported, and authorities are still assessing the situation. Residents are advised to stay calm as emergency teams continue to monitor the aftermath. So if we can see here in the bottom left corner, we can see the exact moments when when Istanbul felt the shock of the 6.2 magnitude earthquake. If you can see here in the bottom left corner, we can see some shocking videos of this huge earthquake that struck Istanbul. So again, as I said, there hasn't been serious casualties, no serious damage or casualties that have been reported, but rescue teams are still assessing the situation. And the next news we'll be talking about today is coming from the West Bank, and more specifically coming from the head of the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank region. So the head of the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, Mahmoud Abbas, has called Hamas as sons of bitches for not releasing held hostages and thus granting Israel excuses to continue its military operation. So the head of the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, Mahmoud Abbas, so the president of practically Palestine, he stated that every day there are hundreds of deaths in Gaza. Why? They, Hamas, don't want to hand over the American hostage and Israeli hostages. You son of bitches, Hamas. Hand what you have, the hostages, and get out of this war. Don't give Israel excuses to continue its military operation. Don't give Israel excuses. So that was that little quote and speech came from the head of the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, Mahmoud Abbas, and he calls on Hamas to release the Israeli and American hostages to try and save the bloodshed and not to give, according to him, Israel excuses to continue the operation in Gaza. And we've also gotten some news today that Donald Trump apparently has just spoken to the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. So you can see here in your bottom left corner, Donald Trump posted on his Truth social media page that he had spoken to the Prime Minister of Israel, and they talked about numerous subjects, including trade, Iran, and other subjects. The call went very well, according to Donald Trump, and apparently, according to the US President, we are now on the same side of every issue. So we're on the same page, so interesting news. The next news we've got today is coming from Syria. So we've got sanctions. Oh, that's not Syria. Here. The next news is coming from Syria. We've got news that the EU eases Syria sanctions, but Greece blocks over Turkey fears. So the EU is now easing Syria sanctions after the fall of Assad al-Bashar, but Greece and the South Cyprus administration are holding back further relief over fears of growing Turkish influence. So they seek firm guarantees from Syria's leader, Ahmad al-Shara, particularly on protecting minorities and blocking any deals with Turkey. So, Greece and Cyprus, well, the southern administration of Cyprus, are very cautious in relieving sanctions on Syria due and fear to Turkish influence in the country. So, but besides that, the EU is now easing sanctions on Syria right now. And if you remember in the last video, we talked about how officials from Qatar are now going to the United States to try and reduce the sanctions on Syria as well. And the next news we've got today is coming from Saudi Arabia. So we've got news today that the White House published some news that Trump will visit Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates, or the UAE, from May the 13th to May the 16th for potentially economic deals and oil deals with the Saudi Arabians and the United Arab Emirates officials. So interesting news. We've got some news that Donald Trump stated that he probably won't meet Putin in Saudi Arabia, but there is a possibility. So apparently there's a possibility of Putin and Donald Trump actually meeting in Saudi Arabia for talks. So I'll keep you updated on this if it does, but he says that he doubts it. So he says that it will likely be some time after that. Then he'll probably meet Putin, according to Donald Trump. And the next news we've got today is coming from Yemen / the Houthi regions in northern Yemen. So we've got news today that Yemen's Houthis authorities have claimed to have shot down yet another MQ-9 Reaper UAV, the 22nd in total and the 7th this month. So each Reaper UAV drone, American UAV drone, costs about $32 million. So the Yemeni Houthis have reported they have shot down reportedly another MQ-9 Reaper UAV drone, so I'll keep you updated on that if it gets confirmed. We've also got news that the US forces launched new strikes on Yemen's Houthis. So if you can see here in the bottom left corner, the United States Navy is continuing its bombing campaign on northern Yemen, on the Houthis rebels in northern Yemen. And according to the Secretary of State of America, Pete Hegseth, he stated that our forces decimated the Houthi leadership. Hegseth says that US forces have reduced threats to ships in the Red Sea. And Pete Hegseth stated that our message to the Houthis has been clear from the beginning. Allow us to sail our ships and we will stop shooting at you. Until then, you're going to feel the pain. Hegseth ends his speech with a pointed threat to the Houthis. So to simply summarize everything, the Defense Secretary of State, Pete Hegseth, he practically said that in order for the US to stop its bombing campaign on the Houthi militants in northern Yemen, Yemen will have to guarantee that it will guarantee safe passage using the Suez Canal and just going through the Strait of the Gulf of Aden and using the Red Sea without being fired or potentially sunk by Yemeni Houthis. So he's practically stated that if you allow ships to sail through the passage freely, we will stop shooting at you. So Israeli or not. So interesting news. The next news we've got today is coming from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. So we've got news that the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the M23 Rwandan-backed rebels want a ceasefire. So in a joint statement says that peace talks are already going on. So peace talks between the Rwandan-backed M23 forces are now in deep negotiations with the Democratic Republic of the Congo on a ceasefire deal, and I'll keep you updated on that if there's an actual ceasefire deal that gets signed or anything. So interesting news. And the next news we want today is coming from Burkina Faso. So we've got news today that Burkina Faso claims to have foiled a massive coup plot, which, according to Burkina Faso's authorities, originated from the Ivory Coast. So the plot allegedly involved using the terrorist group, the GNIM, to attempt to destabilize the VDP unit of Burkina Faso's armed forces. So Burkina Faso says that it has foiled a plot to a coup to take over the country, and according to Burkina Faso, large-scale purges are underway in Burkina Faso as several dozen army officers have been arrested amid coup rumors. So several dozen army officers in Burkina Faso's armed forces has been arrested due to rumors of a coup taking place in the country. So I'll again keep you updated on that. And the next news we've got today is coming from India. So if you remember in yesterday's video, we talked about how there was a huge terrorist attack that happened in northern western India in the Pahalgam town here in the Kashmir region of India. So yesterday on April the 22nd, 2025, Islamist terrorists conducted a major terror attack in Pahalgam, Kashmir, India, killing dozens at a local tourist destination. Videos shared on social media shows the victims scattered across the field after a terror attack. At least 32 tourists were killed, including 2 foreign tourists, one being an Italian and the other being an Israeli. So eyewitnesses says that the Islamist terrorist attackers asked victims about their religion, checking IDs, or forcing male victims to pull their pants down to make sure they were killing Hindus. So we've got news that after this terrorist attack, India hits Pakistan with major diplomatic and security moves after the Kashmir attack, following the deadly terror attack in Pahalgam, Kashmir in northern western India that killed over 30 people. So obviously India has blamed Pakistan for the terrorist attack, or rebel groups that crossed the border from Pakistan into India that caused the terrorist attack. So India has planned and attacked Pakistan in response to the terrorist attack in northern western India. So India has now closed the border with Pakistan in response to the terrorist attack in Kashmir, India. India is expelling all Pakistani visa citizens from the country. All Pakistani embassy attaches representing the country's Ministry of Defense have been expelled. India has also suspended the 1960 Indus Water Treaty with Pakistan. The treaty was the result of Pakistan's fear that since the source of the Indus River is in the Indian territory, this fact could be allowed for governments to create a drought and famine during a potential war with Pakistan. So I believe it's this exact rivers here, the Indus rivers here. India has also recalled all of its diplomats from its embassy in Islamabad, in Pakistan's capital. We've also got news that Pakistan's embassy staff in New Delhi, the capital city of India, has been given 1 week to leave India. And we've also got news that the Pakistani army has been put on high alert to repel attacks, according to the Pakistani Defense Ministry. And furthermore, we've also just gotten some news today that one of 2 Indian aircraft carriers, the INS Vikrant, has entered the Arabian Sea, presumably heading towards waters near Pakistan. So one of India's aircraft carriers are now going to be probably coming very close to Pakistani waters to probably show a show of power towards Pakistan or something. Who knows? But very interesting news. We've also got news that Pakistan has issued a notification for likely a missile test or naval exercises in the Arabian Sea. as soon as the Indian aircraft carrier was heading towards the Pakistani waters. So Pakistan has just issued a notification for a likely missile test or naval exercise in the Arabian Sea as well. The next news we've gotten today is coming from China. So we've gotten some new footage of the flight of the promising Chinese 6th generation fighter jet, the J36. So you can see here in the bottom left corner, we've now finally gotten some high resolution photos and videos of China's new 6th generation fighter jets, the J36 fighter. And the next news we've gotten today is coming from Australia. So we've gotten some news today that's due to the increasing activity of Chinese and Russian armed forces in the Asia-Pacific region. Australia intends to acquire strategic bombers, more specifically the B1B Lancer bomber from the United States. So according to local analysts, there is an urgent need to acquire at least 8 aircraft of this type, which would be equipped with supersonic anti-ship LRASM missiles featuring stealth designs and a range up to 800 kilometers. We've also got notes that Canberra is also in talks with Lockheed Martin regarding the acquirement of advanced air defense systems based on the Mk-41 vertical launchers equipped with SM-6 missiles with a range of up to 370 kilometers as a response to alleged Russian threat in Indonesia. So, very interesting news. So, Australia is now in talks to try and acquire at least 8 B1B Lancer bombers, and now in talks with Lockheed Martin to acquire at least some maybe American anti-air systems. And the last news from today is coming from the United States of America. So we've got news that Donald Trump has just signed an executive order to promote AI training for school children. He's also signed the executive order directing his administration to enforce existing laws requiring universities to disclose when they receive large foreign gifts. And we've also got news that Trump warns China that ultimately they have to make a deal. And we've also just gotten some news today that the Trump administration is now considering reducing tariffs on Chinese goods to at least 50 to 65% in order to ease tensions with China, according to Wall Street Journal. So Donald Trump is now considering lowering tariffs on China to perhaps 50 or to 65% on Chinese goods. So just by that announcement today by Wall Street Journal, it seems that there has been a huge stock market boom in just for reasons of a potential ending on tariffs on China or a huge decrease in tariffs on China. So $1.5 trillion have been added to the US stock market today. And we've also gotten some news today that Bitcoin overtakes Google's market cap to become the 5th largest asset. So very interesting news. And that's all the news I actually have for you today. I am Non-Scene News. I'll try and provide you news that medias around the world do not show you. I do these videos hopefully daily, so consider subscribing and liking. And if you want to support me personally, please consider donating in the link in the description below or becoming a member of the channel. You can also join my Telegram link in my Telegram channel in the link in the description below. I practically just post breaking news updates and just news that I can't show on YouTube. So consider joining the Telegram link in the description below. And again, thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.